What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. Time for my Week 5 predictions. We're going to take a look at 10 of the biggest games of the weekend, and we will start with a Friday night game. Game coming up tonight, Utah, Oregon State, 9 o'clock Eastern Time on FS1. Oregon State's favored by 3.5, despite the fact they're coming off of a loss. Cam Rising, I don't think is going to be playing in this game. I haven't heard that officially, but from what I had read, it looks like he's unlikely to play in this game, and that's a big deal because this Utah team is going up against a very good Oregon State defense. Now, Oregon State has been kind of up and down, inconsistent on offense, but teams usually play better at home. They play better offensively at home. Defense travels, though, so I expect Utah's defense to step up for this game, and I expect a pretty low-scoring game. But I do think home field advantage is going to be the difference. I just don't know if Utah is going to be able to score much at all in this game without Cam Rising in there. If he plays, if he were to play, I would change my pick here. But I'm going with Oregon State, 19-13. I think it's a low-scoring game, a lot of field goals, and the Beavers get it done at home. Pull off, well, not an upset because they're favored, but ranking-wise, it would be an upset as they're number 19. And Utah is number 10. Let's go to Texas A&M, Arkansas, noon Eastern Time on the SEC Network. A&M favored by 6.5. This is a tough one for me. You've got a lot. I mean, there's a lot to talk about in this game. For Texas A&M, they, of course, had that tough loss to Miami, but they looked, especially defensively, like they were back on track against Auburn last week. And then you lose Connor Wigman. Max Johnson comes in and plays really well for them. I expect him to play well again this week. For Arkansas, they played their best game of the season last week. Came up just short against LSU, but looked like a different team. So which Arkansas team is going to show up? The team that almost beat LSU or the team that lost to BYU? I feel like the motivation factor is there for Arkansas. They're coming off of a loss. They lost this game last year. And part of me wants to go with Arkansas, but I just look at the talent of these two teams, and Texas A&M just a much more talented football team. It's tough. I'm really going back and forth, but I'm going to go with the Aggies. That was my preseason prediction, so I'm going to stick with that and go with Texas A&M, 27-23. I'm not too concerned about the quarterback spot. Again, Max Johnson is a veteran. He's got starts at LSU, played last year before getting injured, and played well last week, so I'm not too concerned there. It's just, I think Arkansas might come out and play really, really well in this game. But I don't think it's going to be enough. I'm going to go with the Aggies, 27-23. Next, we've got Clemson versus Syracuse, noon Eastern Time on ABC. Clemson favored by 6.5. Talked about this on the Upset Alert video. Which Clemson team shows up? A team that has given up on the season. They've lost 2 games. All their goals really down the drain at this point. Or is it going to be an angry Clemson team that comes out fired up, wanting to prove that this program's not going anywhere, that they're going to bounce back, they're going to maybe finish strong, go 10-2, get to a New Year's Six bowl. There are still goals that they can achieve, and they can still even get to the ACC championship. And so I think that's the side we're going to see from Clemson. For Syracuse, I'm not sold on them. They haven't played anyone yet. It's a team that in the preseason, when I evaluated them, I was not very high on. Gadsden, their star tight end, they don't have him anymore. So I think Clemson is able to get this win. I think they win it 35-21. A game that's not really all that close.Maybe a late touchdown for Syracuse makes it look a little bit closer. But that's the Clemson I'm expecting. I could be wrong. Syracuse has given them fits in the past. It's a little different this year when Clemson's already got 2 losses. So we'll see what happens. This is a tough one to figure out just because I don't know which Clemson team's going to show up, and I really just don't know how good Syracuse is yet. This is their first real test. Florida, Kentucky, noon Eastern Time on ESPN. Kentucky favored by 1. This is also a really difficult pick. I'll just say this. I don't feel very confident in my predictions this week. Kentucky is another team that I just don't know about. They haven't really been tested. Looked pretty good against Vanderbilt last week, but that's Vanderbilt, and that's the toughest team they've played all year. And so, again, I just don't know what to expect from Kentucky, but they're playing at home, so that makes me feel pretty good about the Wildcats. For Florida, we know the defense is going to be really good. We know the offense will be solid. They haven't been super explosive on that side of the ball, but they've been solid. Graham Mertz, pretty efficient. So I know what I'm going to get from Florida. I just don't know what I'm going to get from Kentucky, and that's what makes this so tricky. Home field advantage, though, is going to be ultimately what makes the decision for me. I'm going with Kentucky in a close one, 24-20. But wouldn't be surprised at all if Florida won, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Florida won big. just because I don't know about Kentucky. I don't think they're quite as good as I expected them to be in the preseason, but maybe they can get things figured out. It's a tough one. This is a really tough one for me, but I'm going with Kentucky because they're playing at home. Kansas, Texas, 3:30 Eastern time on ABC. Texas favored by 16.5. That's a huge number. I really like this Kansas team. I hopped them up all offseason, talked about how they were dark horses in the Big 12. I still think that. I still think they might be a team that gets the Big 12 championship. They've played Texas tough in the past. They've upset them in the past. I think they've got confidence going into this game. And I think they take them down to the wire. I'm expecting a really close game. I think Texas, though, having that experience of winning on the road at Alabama and really stepping up last week when I thought they might have a letdown, I think this is a different team mentally, and I think they are able to maybe get down early and overcome that. I'm going with Texas, 38-35, a game-winning field goal here, or maybe a late touchdown to win it. But I think it's close. I do think this game will be close. I'm very surprised that spread is 16.5. I think that number should be closer to a touchdown. But we'll see. We'll see what happens in that one. We got Georgia-Auburn next, 3:30 Eastern time on CBS. This is going to be a tough one for Auburn. You know, it is a rivalry game. I think if Auburn is able to win this game, it's going to have to be a very low-scoring game, like a 16-13 type game where they kick some field goals and they get a defensive touchdown or a special teams touchdown, and their defense just plays lights out because the offense just hasn't shown a whole lot so far this season, at least against Power 5 competition. Georgia still trying to get some things figured out offensively themselves, but they've been much better than Auburn. And I think that the defense for Auburn will keep them in this game, but I don't see what I just talked about playing out. I think, you know, they hang around, but at the end of the day, it's just too much pressure on the Auburn defense. They give up some big plays, and Georgia winds up pulling away 30-13. Maybe a game that's close at halftime, but I do think Georgia wins pretty easily. Next, we've got USC Colorado, noon Eastern time on Fox. 21.5-point favorites for USC. Talked about this one as well in the upset alert video. It's a 9 a.m. kickoff for USC. Colorado's already played in this time slot twice. They'll be prepared. They'll be playing at home. USC's defense has not looked great. Colorado, I think, bounces back from that Oregon performance and plays much better. Maybe USC thinks they're going to go in here and win easily because Oregon did. So I could see a path for Colorado to potentially pull off an upset here. But I just think there's too much talent on that USC side. I think they'll make some plays, maybe even a couple of turnovers, and they get the win. But a fairly close game, 45-31. Only picking them by 2 touchdowns. So I do think against the spread, I'd like Colorado here playing at home against, again, a USC team that does not have a very good defense. LSU Ole Miss, 6 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN. LSU favored by 2.5. LSU's been so inconsistent this year. But look at their road game against Mississippi State. They showed up in that game and played really, really well. Ole Miss's defense is still not great. They've kind of been up and down. Just go into look at in these games. Both of these teams have been inconsistent. LSU, or Ole Miss, I should say. Remember, they were down against Tulane, had to come from behind. LSU played great against Florida State in the first half, terrible in the second half. I mean, these teams are just so inconsistent. I trust this LSU offense and defense. If you look at their total team, their total roster, I think it's a better team. I think that they're able to go on the road and win this game. I'm going to say 42-28. Some points in this one, pretty high scoring. But again, I trust LSU, and I think they bounce back from an okay performance against Arkansas. Ole Miss, how many times have we seen it where Alabama beats teams twice because they get so beat up, the games are so physical, the next week they go out and they lose again. Maybe that's what happens here, but I'm going with the Tigers. We got Notre Dame Duke here, 7:30 Eastern time on ABC. The game day will be there. Notre Dame's favored by 5.5. This is a tough one for me because I think these teams are pretty even. Both teams have really good defenses. They're pretty similar. It's just a great matchup, and it's a chance for Duke to prove themselves, but they have not really been on this stage in the spotlight like this. I know they had the Labor Day game against Clemson, but this is a little bit different. Everyone's patting them on the back. They're 4-0. They got game day. I just don't know if the pressure gets to them or not, but I think Notre Dame is a little bit better than Duke. Playing at home might be the equalizer, though. And again, I've just kind of gone back and forth on this game. I really like teams when they lose a game like Notre Dame lost. I like them to normally bounce back. So I think they bounce back and use that experience to win a close game, 20-17. I think it's very, very close, but I'm going with Notre Dame on the road. And then finally, South Carolina, Tennessee, 7:30 Eastern time on the SEC Network. Tennessee favored by 12. This is a revenge game for the Vols. I think playing at home, last time we saw them on a big stage, they looked pretty bad against Florida. I think they play much better at home. I think the defense will play better. I think Joe Milton will have a big day. South Carolina's offense has been a problem for them. Tennessee's had a good pass rush this year. I think with the revenge factor, I think Tennessee's really motivated in this one, and I think they win big. I think they get some revenge. 45-24 going to be my prediction here. And so I'm not really picking any upsets this week. I think it's going to be a quiet week in terms of upsets. Really not a lot of huge games this week either. But it's going to be an exciting week. You know, all 14 teams in the SEC play conference games. So 7 conference games in the SEC. Conference games really getting going across the country. So it's not going to be quite as exciting as week 4 maybe. But usually when it's like this, we see some surprises. I'm not really finding that surprise. I don't know where it's going to be, but we might see it. So we'd love to get your predictions on week 5. Let me know what you think down in the comments below.